Well, the leaking pinion seal bothered me a lot, and it is leaking pretty bad, as I showed you earlier in the series. So I pulled the cover off to drain the fluid to try to deal with the pinion seal, because I didn't want to have stuff running everywhere. And was pleasantly surprised, actually, that as bad as that pinion seal was leaking, the level of oil was actually pretty good. I could see the oil level after I drained it out, and it really hadn't gone down much. So if your pinion seal is leaking, and you're doing like I am and just using this axle on a temporary basis, probably not worth worrying about. But we're this far, so we might as well keep going. This ring gear is so tiny, it's almost laughable. It looks like something you'd see in a foreign car. But the ring gear is in good shape, no chipped teeth or any excessive wear. Actually, it looks very good for over 100,000 miles. So no complaints there. Not going to do anything with it, but put a new gasket on here and put the cover back on. The cover was actually bent along the bottom, like she was driving over tree stumps or something with it. I'm not sure how that happened, but covered with mud. I mean, this thing was, I don't know where this thing was driven, but it was obviously in a dirt driveway or something. At any rate, we're going to put a new cover gasket on and put the cover back on, and then we'll move up to the front and deal with the seal. Alright, so I got a new gasket, and I got it from Rock Auto, and I think I spent less than $3 on this. This was actually a Felpro. You just have to be careful ordering these, because you almost have to know your ring gear size and that kind of thing, or you can potentially get the wrong one. But I must be the last person on earth that ordered one of these for a little 7.5 or 7.25 or whatever this thing is. So not expensive at all to do this part, and it'll solve, you know, a leak. Usually it starts to weep along the bottom. So I gave it a quick clean, but the axle's so bad I'm not even going to bother painting this thing. It's just it's going to look out of place, and besides you can't see it with the muffler there anyway. Well, it's been a long time coming, but I'm ready to reveal my radio upgrade. Finally got all the parts I needed and was able to piece it together today. So this is the factory radio from the Falcon. These are specific to the dash. You can't just slap in a modern radio because of the way the knobs and the push buttons and all that line up in the openings, unless you want to butcher the dash, which I am loath to do. So what I do is try to find another solution. And since terrestrial radio sucks so bad these days with all the commercials and crappy repetitive music, I don't really care if I have a radio that works. But I did want to have the ability to play music in the car. So, utilizing this as a housing, I wanted to try to be able to access music in another way. And with modern technology, I got a tip from somebody else that one could use Bluetooth. And so this is what I wound up doing. So I removed most of the guts of the inside of the radio. Now I had to leave this big mechanism in the center for the push buttons because it's the only way that you're going to have them still fitting in the holes in the dash. But instead of that, I gutted the rest of it out, and there's a pile of dead radio parts there. And remember, this radio did not work. It would power on, but nothing else would function. So this selector gear was bad. As if you watch the whole series, you know that. So it was not really, I didn't feel bad about hacking this thing up. So what I did was I got this, which is a Bluetooth radio. And all it does is it gets the signal from your phone or whatever other device you might have, and then it'll play it through here, and it has a volume control and then speaker attachments. So, nifty device, and very small, as you can see. It's about the size of a credit card. I got this off of Amazon. If I can find it again, I'll try to post a link in the description. But you can look these up on Amazon, you know, under Bluetooth radio, or I forget what exactly they call it, but you'll see them. They come in various sizes and styles and so forth, but this is the one I chose. And it comes slightly disassembled. You got to put the top and bottom on and screw it together. I mean, it takes like 5 minutes. And it comes with a control knob, and the control knob goes on the shaft at the front. So now I have to connect this unit here to my existing radio so that I can use the factory on-off and volume knob to control it, which actually wasn't that difficult. The only difficulty was in connecting the two shafts together. Now I had to hack this volume control down quite a bit. I took a lot of junk off of it that it didn't need to try to get most of an exposed shaft. And then what I did was to connect these two, I found you can buy these universal joints. And what they seem to be made for are model boats, I think, to run the propellers. I could not find a domestic supplier of these. They are almost exclusively Chinese made and sold through China, vendors on eBay and so on. But I did find that I could get the size I needed through Walmart, so I didn't have to deal with the unreliability of some of the Chinese vendors. And I got them from Walmart's website, and they came actually faster than what they originally had estimated. I think I was looking at almost a month to get them, and it only took about maybe 2 weeks. So I needed ones with two different sizes on them. The size on this side, I believe, is 5mm. I got it down to a shaft where it was long enough I could do a detachment, and I think this side was the 5, and I believe this size over here on this shaft was 6. And they actually make one that has ID 5 and ID 6mm on the two different sides. Lucky me, and incredibly, it fit together perfectly. I didn't have to drill out the U-joints or anything weird like that. They have them in all kinds of different sizes, so no matter what you wind up with, unless it's a really big disparity in size, you should be able to find it. And they're going to be metric sizes, so, you know, get out your micrometer and change it to millimeters. And then there's that. So, and then believe it or not, it just fits inside the chassis. It looks like it sticks up a little bit here, but it actually fits under the cover just fine. And then all I did was made a little L-shaped bracket to hold it to keep it from moving back and forth when you turn the knob. And so you turn the knob here, it clicks on, the U-joint spins, you can control the volume, and you turn it off, just like it would be a factory radio. So that's that, and I'm still toying with the wiring here. This is the factory ground cable that plugs into the car. I think I'm just going to run this ground here for the unit back to the chassis. There's the wire for the light. I want to hook that up so it lights up with the rest of the dash lights. And then you have to cut a slot in the back, which is actually very easy. This metal's not very brittle or anything. You can cut it pretty easily. Just cut a slot there so that all your connections can protrude as needed. So hopefully when I get this in the car, it actually will work as advertised, because I haven't tested it yet. Sorry, the heater just turned on. But that's my solution to the radio problem. I didn't have to buy some, multi-$100 custom radio to fit in the dash or anything like that. So once it's in the car, I will tell you if it works as it's intended. I don't have a speaker to try it right now. I got to order a replacement for the dash speaker. AutoSound makes one that got pretty good reviews, so I'm just going to put the one single speaker up in the dash. I'm not a big music aficionado when it comes to having it in the car, I'll be honest. As long as I have something that makes some music and I can hear it, that's all I care about. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Now back to regular car repair. A little something extra. I was having trouble getting the dash lights to come on. I could get the instrument indicator lights to light, but not any of the illumination. So traced that to the headlight switch. I just ran a jumper wire to the fuse block and put power to the fuse block for that circuit, and I got dash lights, but it all goes back to the headlight switch is where it begins at. So took it out, and this rheostat was kind of loose. I don't think it was in its position quite right, which was one problem, but the other was it it was corroded in here. See if I can show you exactly where. So as we zoom in here, it makes continuity down in this area here. The rheostat wheel and this brass fitting here connect, and it will rotate. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with two hands, but this rotates, and then it acts as a brush against this and this gap here. And this was all kind of green and ugly looking. You can see there's still some green corrosion on this rivet back here, but that's kind of what was happening over here. So I cleaned that all up, and that seems to have fixed it. So the nice thing about these old cars is you can get into the switches and you can actually clean things. The other part that's a contact is there's a contact over here that goes against that spring. That's what controls your rheostat. And that was a little grungy looking too. So I cleaned all that up, plugged it back in the car, and now I have dash lights and the rheostat works. So I was having some trouble with the door locks on this thing, not wanting to unlock. And one of the problems that I found, and if you have a car with a sticking door handle button too, you're going to find that this piece up here in the top that is on the back side of the door handle is a stamped steel hinge, and it's two pieces that pivot there, and that was pretty corroded. Both sides were hanging up, and lubricating that and working it seemed to have solved the problem for the most part. So if you're having issues with your door handles, that'd be the place I would look. It's the inside of the top side of the door, inside of, up top, and right behind the handle button. Another thing that came in the parts shipment this week was the little bezels for the door lock knobs. These will have the tabs break and then they'll just rattle around on there. And I got these new ones from a lot of crafters. These are just the clear plastic ones. They're very inexpensive. I think they're like $1.29 each or something. You can get chrome ones, but they're like $5 a piece. So I just went with the clear ones. You do have to be a little forceful putting these on. So you would remove the lock knob, put this in place, and I use a socket that's the same size as this piece, and give it a couple good whacks with a hammer on top of the socket to drive it into place, because those tabs just aren't very flexible. But one or two good whacks will put it in place, and then it's in. So it seems like something that would break instantly, but I had no problem putting both of them on that way. Does your shop floor look like this? I have quite the mess here. But we're making a little progress. I also got a shipment of parts in, and I was able to replace the seal here on the cowl. It's one of the things I was waiting for. Got that. I got new door weather strips. These are made by Dennis Carpenter, but I got them from Autocrafters. And anytime you can buy Dennis Carpenter weather stripping, go that way. They make the best stuff, and it's made from the original tooling most of the time, so you know it's going to fit. I've had some experience with some of the brands offered by some of the other vendors that don't fit worth a hoot. So anyway, I was going to put those in, but I ran out of, or I didn't have the weather strip adhesive that you need to put on the upper corners of the window there. All right, that's going to do it for this week. I will check in again hopefully in another week. It's hopefully going to be getting nicer weather here shortly, so the motorcycles are going to start seeing some use, and that's going to probably put a little damper on some of the progress we're going to be making. But, you know, you got to live life and have some fun. So I'll check in again. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you soon.